Okay, this video is pretty much all solely on just prog band, or just two prog bands, but kind of really the prog giants, if you will, are kind of the main, I don't know what you call it, but, totem pole, or, or what's the other, like, pillars of that, of the heyday, or, really the height of the progressive rock wave. And yeah, I mean, you had the great prog bands like Yes and Focus. But another group that I really, really like as well, that I feel like a couple of their early albums are not really oh, they're great, Well, but I really, really like listening to them, especially like their first one, Genesis to Revelation. Genesis kind of reminds me a lot of the first Yes album, where, they're kind of, in that folky, kind of poppy, if you will. Then they had Trespass. They did have, now before Phil Collins came along, they had some other drummer, I forget the name of the guy. And of course they had, what's his name? Not Peter Gabriel, but who else? Mike Rutherford and, I think Peter Banks, right? Or no, maybe not. Maybe not Peter Banks. I know there was another guy named Peter in Genesis, Then you had Foxtrot. That was a pretty decent album. And Nursery Crime, which was to feature Phil Collins, to debut him, however, on the album. And then, of course, this album right here, which is actually my favorite from the group, from Genesis, from that period, from the Peter Gabriel period. And it is Selling England by the Pound from 1973. And of course, 73, some really great prog albums. You had well, at least one I can think of right on the top of my head is definitely Tales from Topographic Oceans. Even the other prog band that I'll mention here, Gentle Giant with In a Glass House. What an incredible album. You had Jethro Tull, I think, what was it? Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick or something like that. I don't know if that came later on, but yeah, but I mean, just you had some of those great, really some top-notch, great progressive groups at that time. And I think this one definitely for sure really tops them all, I think, and I like the concept of it a little bit, because it's about greed and how, I guess, the world is kind of shady. But I like the first one, Dancing with Moonlit Night. Of course, you have their kind of their poppy song. They're kind of like the first of their, kind of like the hits or whatever. I don't think it wasn't a hit here, but it was a hit over in England. I know what I like in your wardrobe, which is kind of which kind of ties in, because it kind of metaphorically, or it kind of ties in with what the album cover is and stuff. They mention about the lawnmower, and they talk about the guy sleeping on the bench, it's kind of fun. I always like that one. And Fifth of Firth, that is an incredible piece right there. It's slow, and I like the piano, almost like Mozart. It's just wow, what great. I was blown away by that. And the Cinema Show. There is a little short song which I'm not really a big fan of, and I think it's After the Ordeal, I believe. And then it ends with Isle of Plenty. And and I really, really like Peter Gabriel's voice. And I know it kind of sinks in a little bit with Phil Collins, especially with I Know What I Like with Your Wardrobe, because both of them are actually kind of harmonizing with one another. And Phil Collins kind of somewhat has a little bit of a co-lead there, you know, which is kind of pretty cool. Now, I also kind of not really a big fan of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which is, you know, not one of my favorites. But it's kind of like one of those I need to listen to again to really, you know, really be like, okay, yeah, well, maybe it's not as bad, you know. I even kind of like some of, you know what I mean? And even after Peter Gabriel left the group, I like some of those, I even like some of those Phil Collins albums, you know, like A Trick of the Tail, Wind and Weathering. But I think they got a little bit too, you know, I think they just got a little bit too silly, you know, with stuff like, you know, like Abacab. Like, I'm not, that album's a little too silly. But yeah, I mean, my favorite from Genesis, from the Peter Gabriel, is definitely Selling England by the Pound. It's a really great album. And then I got, like I mentioned before, or if I haven't, that is, of course, Gentle Giant. I love these guys. Great stuff, you know. They got a little bit of that, you know. Oh. Sorry. But anyways, I like their versatility, you know. Yeah, they just add in so much, like, you know, and I feel like they're a lot like Focus. They're, you know, they kind of remind me of that group or whatever, you know. And yeah, this is like their first two albums, you know. This is not, you know, stuff like, you know, Power and Glory and stuff like that. This is like a little bit early. You know, they're kind of folk, you know, they're sounding a little folk, but though they got a little bit they're trying to find their identity, you know. And it's just like Supertramp, you know, it kind of reminds me a lot of the early Supertramp. But yeah, I mean, this is a lot of great stuff on here, you know. The first one, Gentle Giant, and then the other one, Acquiring the Taste, both from 71. Or I think the first one was 70, Acquiring the Taste is 71. I even like the song Acquiring the Taste. It's like a little bit, you know, they're not, like, you know what I mean? Like, they would definitely throw in a lot of the jazz fusion stuff in there. You know, they weren't quite like, whoa, completely out, you know, completely, no, they weren't really as insane as what they're going to be, like, you know, from pretty much after these and then the other two that I'm going to show. But yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty good stuff. I like both of these. And I also like both from, okay, so these are both from 72. Three Friends and Octopus, I believe. Yeah, that's the name of the, yeah, this is their third one, and this is their fourth one, their fourth album. Yeah, I like the beginning of Three Friends. It's like a prologue. It's kind of weird, you know. See, this is when they were getting really, like, freaky and stuff, you know. And I even like the Three Friends songs. A really, really great song. But I think Octopus definitely is my favorite album from theirs. Songs like The Boys in the Band, I like that, and even Dog's Life. So, and you know what I mean? Like, they got that humor too as well, which I really, really like from Gentle Giant. And, you know, like I said, they'll definitely become more, you know, just, I feel like they'll definitely become more of like what everybody knows of Gentle Giant, you know, just that really crazy, avant-garde, really bizarre, you know, just intense stuff from them. But anyways, folks, that's it for my top favorites. That's Genesis and Gentle Giant. Great stuff. Prog music is king. Okay, folks, take care. Bye-bye.